Hello everyone, I'm Soma Mazumdar.
And I'm Orod and welcome to Kanban Lab podcast. In each episode, we'll pick a common question and dive into a different aspect of Kanban, exploring its principles, practices, and applications, and answering that question.
Our goal in this podcast is to demystify Kanban and help listeners understand how it can benefit their teams and organizations through addressing the common misconceptions, clarifying concepts, and answering questions about Kanban. Morning, Orod.
Good morning, Soma. How are you?
Yeah, not bad. What about you?
I'm pretty good. Today it's a very nice sunny day in Melbourne. How's the weather in Sydney?
Same. You know what? This actually reminds me we should definitely record videos for this session so that everyone else can watch the weather with us. What do you
Oh,
think?
yeah, I can go to the backyard. Actually, we have a very nice green backyard.
Oh, me too. We should be doing this in our backyard, maybe.
Sounds good.
Well, okay. So tell me, what have you heard about Kanban
Hmm.
recently?
Yeah. So one thing, people keep telling me when we
Mm.
talk about Kanban is
Mm.
that Kanban is just a board. Why do we need to even talk about it, right?
Ah, yeah.
So what do you think? Have you heard something like that? Do you think Kanban is just a board?
Definitely. I've heard a lot many times than you can actually imagine that Kanban is just a board. What is there to learn about Kanban? And I believe that, well, like if they are talking about the board, which is
Mm,
actually Kanban, the board, they are not very wrong. However, if they are talking about the management method Kanban,
mm-hmm,
that's where the problem comes, that it's just more about awareness. I believe that people don't understand that Kanban could be so much more than a board. So definitely there's a lot more than just a
mm-hmm.
board. So how about we talk about that? So what
Yeah,
do you think?
good. Sounds good. So why do you think people think that Kanban is just a board in the first place?
Well, do you think that, like people are just confused with the Kanban board with like versus the Kanban management method? Because we do use Kanban board for everything. Like that's the visualization with different columns to visualize how the work is flowing through your system.
Mm,
However, now if you take a step back, which is about applying all the principles and the practices of Kanban management method, starting from change management principle or service delivery principle, which is focusing on customer centricity.
mm,
We don't get to do that in the board, right? You have to apply those practices outside the board. So the board can help you to visualize your decision making,
mm-hmm,
how you have, like, what kind of decisions you have made and how that's progressing, how that's tracking, how is your work flowing through your system. So what are the different bottlenecks
mm-hmm,
that you can see in the board? You can visualize business risk on the board, but you cannot visualize how, like the different practices and principles that need to be applied to make it better for the
mm.
people. So
No,
what do you
yeah,
think?
that's good. Kanban use board as one
Mm-hmm.
of the tools to
Mm.
visualize the work that we're doing and also visualize how this work goes through our system from customer until customer demands met, right?
Mm. Mm.
But do you think any visualization is a Kanban board? Or this Kanban board needs to have some sort of criteria, then we can call it Kanban board. Because I've seen that
Yeah.
a lot of times, and it's very common that people just stick lots of cards in the wall and say,
Oh, yes,
this is a
yes.
Kanban board, and we're
Well,
doing
yeah.
Kanban and all those kind of things.
Very good point, because yes, you should be able to signal when there is a capacity to your Kanban board. So if you cannot see that on the board, then it might not be a Kanban board. So uh, to like there could be a different kind of visualization, like
Mm-hmm.
so yes, everything is not Kanban, and that's a very good point. Yes, like when I was talking about Kanban board, usually like a board which will help you to identify that if there is any capacity to pull any new work, so that will help you to understand what a pull system is,
Mm-hmm.
what your capacity is, and whenever there is capacity to pull new work, all those things needs to happen in the board, then only it could be considered as a Kanban board. If it
Yeah.
is not, then it is just a visualization of your work. You can call it just a board.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, I'm again like, I'm not sure if we can call the board. Sometimes I've seen teams using boards um, on walls, or, like even on like
Digital
tools,
tools. Yeah.
digital tools. Yes, that's the word I was looking for. So digital tools where there's no capacity mentioned. Like for example, I cannot understand if people will have capacity to pull work. Um, so yes, they would be just boards, right?
Yeah, exactly. So, to me, if I want to summarize Kanban board,
Mm,
Kanban board to me is a very informative board. It's
mm,
something that when I look at the board, it tells me what's happening. And
yeah.
also, it's small enough to give me all the information I need.
Mm,
I don't want to scroll like 5 minutes to get to the bottom of the board to see
mm,
what is going on. I also don't want to have too much information. I
mm,
just want to get enough information, right?
yeah.
Sometimes the board are too simple, maybe two, three columns,
Mm,
right? So when I look at the board, it doesn't exactly tell me what's happening.
yeah.
Sometimes it has 50 columns. Again, it's too much,
Mm,
right? So every time I want to talk about the Kanban board, I tell people that Kanban board needs to tells you very quickly in
mm,
a glance,
yeah.
tells you what's happening in the system.
That's right.
And that system can
Mm,
be one individual,
mm,
it can be a cross-functional team, it
mm,
can be a service delivery team, it can be development team, test team,
mm,
whatever that team is. I don't
yeah.
care. But
Mm,
when I look at it, I need to know what's happening very,
yes.
very quickly.
Yeah. That's a very good summing up of the Kanban board, I would say. So
Mm,
it's a good summary where, yes, you're exactly right. Like if you are not getting enough information by looking at the board about what's happening at that
yeah.
moment, then it might not be the right board, or can be called the Kanban board, because
It's just a board. It's not a
it's
Kanban
just
board. It's just a
yes,
board. Yeah.
yes.
So another question, because I think in this episode we can focus a little bit on visualization and Kanban board.
Mm,
So what is the reason that Kanban want to use Kanban board as its main tools?
yeah.
What problem we can solve by visualization, basically?
Hmm. I think visualization is one of our strongest sensory inputs, because when we like, I would give you my example.
Mm,
When I see something, I can remember that for a like longer period of time.
yeah.
And it also helps to understand like what's happening. So that's a very powerful tool in itself if you think about it. Like when humans are concerned, when
Mm,
they come together and they look at the board, like when they visualize it, it is very like there's a very good chance that they would come to the similar kind of points.
mm,
And this is very much important when you have teams from like all over the world with different background, um, where they interpret things in a different way. So when you are visualizing that, like like let's take an example. Let's say your testing column is overcrowded.
yeah.
Your development, like everything else, like your development column, your the ready column, it's like
Sure.
it's fine, but your testing column is overcrowded. So
Yeah.
when you look at that, that's the first thing you get it. You
Mm.
don't have to, no one has to like, what do you say, like interpret that message that,
Yeah,
okay, there is a problem going on in testing. Let's talk about it.
that's
So
right.
visualization helps with that. And
Hmm.
it doesn't matter which country, which language, like you speak or which
Yeah, it's
country
a
you are from.
universal language, right?
It's a yes. You look at that, you're like, okay, something is going on. Now you
Too
then
much is going on or nothing is going on. Yeah, exactly.
exactly.
No, I totally with you because as you said, we get a lot of information through our eyes.
Mm.
And in fact, I have a very bad eyesight. So I have glasses since I was like 6. And I've
Yeah.
noticed that when I take off my glasses, I can't
Mm.
even hear properly. You know what I'm
Yes.
saying?
Yes.
So by visualization, we can increase the, transparency
Mm.
for ourselves in the first
Yes.
place, because a lot of times you talk to people and they say,
Mm.
okay, what's happening? And they say, oh, I'm too busy. I'm too
That's
busy.
right.
I don't
That's
even
right.
have time to talk to you, right?
Yeah.
But when you ask them, okay, yes, I understand you're too busy. Can you tell me what you're working on?
Mm.
It's very difficult for them to verbalize it,
Mm.
because they working on so many things.
Yeah.
And when we ask them, or when I visualize everything that I need to do in today,
Mm.
then I notice that, oh my God, I'm working on 20
Too
different
many.
things, right?
Exactly.
That
Yeah.
that's a lot.
Yeah.
And also help me to focus on these 20. First of all,
Mm.
it's too much,
Mm.
but it helps me to focus. Also helps other people to understand why I'm too busy and
That's true.
if they can come and help me or not,
Mm.
right? But it can give them enough transparency that why I'm too busy. I don't have time to come to this meeting, or I don't
Mm.
even have time to eat.
Mm. That's very good point actually, transparency. And that helps also to build trust among the team. When
Hmm.
you are visualizing your work, let's say that, okay, individuals, like it's not the whole team, they are doing it together. Maybe it's like very early stages and they just want to visualize their own work.
Yeah.
So they are putting that on a board, on a Kanban board. And when someone is asking that, okay, why haven't you attended that meeting? Why you're not going to attend the, future meeting this week? All they can do is that, like just make them see the board and
Hmm.
show that, okay, look, it's not that I don't intend to attend the meeting, but this is what is happening with me at the moment. I'm getting work from all over the place, and
Mm,
I just need some time to, like properly focus on the things that I'm working on. So it sends a signal to our, and
that's right.
it's more like data, right? Like when you
Yeah,
visualize, it's actually showing you the data in a way that, okay, the
exactly.
board is giving you the information
Yeah, it's
that's
kind of
required.
reporting. It's also
Yes,
kind of reporting without you need to actually generate any report. It tells
exactly.
you, how much work you've done, which and also
Yeah.
encourage you because when you see that something's done,
Mm.
it's motivating, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I've done one work.
Yeah.
20 is still left, 19 left, but
Yeah.
one is done.
Yeah. That's exactly it is. And like, one thing at a time, that always helps me, not sure about others. It's just putting that whip limit. When you have 20 items in your to-do column, what should you focus on so that it is like you feel motivated by the end of the day, or even productive? Because like, has it happened to you, or someday when like you had too many things to do, but by the end of the day you were like, okay, I haven't done anything,
Yeah,
I don't feel productive.
exactly. You've been utilized, but you
Yes.
haven't achieved anything.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And yeah, same thing has happened to me as well.
Mm.
I have a good analogy. I don't know if people would understand this, but I consider the whip limit, as meditation. Because when you are
Okay.
meditating, the whole point of meditating is that you are focusing on one thing at a time. If you think about it, if you
Mm.
are thinking about too many things, your brain is not focusing, and it cannot be
Mm.
called a meditation, because when you meditate, the ultimate benefit is that your mind can be at rest and you can literally focus on one thought, whatever that thought might be. It doesn't
Mm.
matter. Now when you consider that, like, just apply the same analogy, in working. When we are working on multiple things, sometimes the goal is that, like, the outcome is that we are not able to achieve anything. What
Yes.
I try to do, I try to like take one thing, and I call it like meditating at work.
Yeah.
It's just like focus on one thing at a time, get it to a stage where I know that I can achieve that, I can
Mm-hmm.
get it to done, and then move to the next one. In that
That's right.
way, I'm not clouding my judgment, I'm not clouding my mind with too many things at the same time, but also having that satisfaction that I have achieved something by the end of the day.
Mm. Now that's actually quite good. It helps you to focus and
Mm.
helps you to go to the state of flow.
Yes.
The book written by Mihailo something something, I can't even pronounce his
But
surname.
yeah, you got the essence. It's the,
That's the
yeah,
meditation I think you're talking about. So
exactly.
you go to this state that you focus on the task or whatever
Mm,
you're working
mm,
on, and you
yeah,
don't think about anything else. You don't even
no,
notice the time because I focus on this task. I need to get it
exactly.
done, then go to the
Yes,
next task. Yeah.
definitely. Yes,
Rather
and
than, switch from one to another and then,
yeah,
yes, you've been utilized, but you haven't done anything. You
yes,
haven't achieved anything. Yeah.
yeah,
Now that's actually quite interesting.
and this is the same information you can get through a Kanban board if you are putting all your work on there to
Mm,
visualize it. You can get it, like you can get the information that, like, is your mind going through that state of flow, or you have too many things on your plate? So what should you do? So
yeah.
all this information should be able to be given by a Kanban board, where you can check and sense your capacity. Is it
Mm,
available to pull new work, or are you being utilized?
yeah. And also it helps you to negotiate, right? So for
Mm,
example, when you're working on multiple works, then
yeah.
someone, your manager, come and say, can you work on this one? Then you can say, hey, manager, look,
Mm,
I'm working on 10 things.
mm,
If I want to work on what you said, then something will be impacted.
yes.
Which one do you want to be
Mm,
impacted? Which one has, less priority for the customer or for the business,
mm,
right? And let's negotiate about it without visualizing
mm.
what you are working on. Then you got nothing to negotiate with the business and the
Exactly.
managers and the customer because they were like, because people just think about their own,
Yes.
demand, right?
Yes, yes, that's very true. And the most important part of visualization or the Kanban board is that, like when you talk to people without the board, people might not remember the 10 things you were working on.
Mm-hmm.
But one feeling that will stuck with them will be like, okay, Orod has said no to me.
Mm,
But the moment
exactly.
you show the board,
Yeah.
you actually visualize the work together, that will help you to negotiate in a way that, okay, I'm not saying no. I'm just
Yeah.
telling Oro that I do
Exactly.
not have capacity at the moment because of
Yeah.
the other things.
Yes. So, one thing I always tell people, and I'm happy to, if needed, we can discuss a little bit further, but I always tell people that we don't have capacity is not the right statement. The
Mm,
right statement is what will be impacted if
mm,
I work on something else, what will be impacted? Because a lot of times people think that my capacity is fixed, what I'm working on is fixed. So if
mm,
something else come, I say, no, I don't have
mm.
capacity.
Yeah.
But I would encourage people rather than say, no, I don't do it,
Mm,
go back and say, I'm happy to work on this one, but something will be impacted. Look at the board and see which
mm.
one.
Oh, wow. That's a very good way of saying no. I love it,
Yeah.
actually.
So yeah,
Yeah.
you never say no. You
Yeah.
always start negotiating with
I
your
love it.
customer. Yeah?
Yeah.
Good. Okay. All right. So if you want to summarize,
The Kanban. Okay.
yeah, what we discussed today, what is the, takeaway?
Well, the first takeaway would be a Kanban board will be able to signal capacity when
Mm-hmm.
to pull the next piece of work. So people
Mm-hmm.
should know it. You can use Kanban board for, like individual teams, service delivery teams, for any kind of teams or
Mm-hmm.
any individual, doesn't matter. But yes, the main thing is that you will be able to visualize the workflow, the different, work that is at different stages, but also the risk and the capacity. So if
Yeah.
your board is not giving you enough information, then you might rethink what kind of board is that, because that wouldn't be the Kanban board.
Good.
Um, yep, I think that's all we discussed. Also, the point that Orod mentioned about negotiating, instead of saying we don't have capacity,
Mm-hmm.
start saying what would get impacted.
Yeah.
So,
Good. All right. So if I kind of summarize what we discussed,
mm,
uh, first of all, visualizing the work and putting lots of card on the board, it doesn't necessarily means that this is a Kanban board. Kanban board
mm,
should be simple enough to give you enough information about what's going on in your system,
mm,
helps you to negotiate with the customer and manage the priority, what basically matter to the customer. Also, it motivates you
mm,
to pick the next work because when you finish the work, it helps you to focus, finish it, get it done. You feel good, and then you can start the next work.
mm, mm.
All right, very good. Thanks so much,
Thank
and
you. All
thanks
right.
everyone for listening.
Thanks, everyone.